Barry, London News, Melbourne, Australia. The information I talk about applies to every country that's a common law country. The US. People say, well, who cares about the US? What happens in the US will be followed very, very closely up here in Australia and Ireland and other countries as well, because we're all registered companies, all owned and controlled by that, what is it called, Democrats or something? Yes, and who controls, well, who's their leaders in that? UN, EU. Now, if you didn't hear that from me, that's fiction. But it's funny, the laws that they've created in fictional laws all comes from the Crimes Act, 1958. This is quite a big book, and you often wonder where they got their laws from. Well, everything in this book comes from common law. In fact, we don't need acts. Acts apply to the living dead. And this is something you've got to get used to. Stop using the term person. You've got to stop to refer to yourself as a person. Because a person, if you look it up, and I know you won't, the people watching this here, they're already queued up. The Walking Dead out there, some of the idiots still wearing masks here in Australia, we're never going to get through them because they all fear dying. I'm 75, I'm lucky to be around. We're all dying. And one little thing about dying is, you cannot die unless you're meant to die. So if you're supposed to be killed in an aeroplane crash and you've just made a big decision, I'm never going to fly, one day you'll have to go somewhere by an aeroplane, and if that's the day you've got to die, you're going to die. And we have to stop obeying Simple Simon. I think Fauci, some doctor in the States, I have to be very careful what I say, because some of these animals, you know, they're like kangaroos and stuff, they're all protected. What Simple Simon said, wear a mask, and Simple Simon said, take it off. Simple Simon, basically what Simple Simon is saying, obey. And if you don't obey, we will punish you. But remember, we must be scared of dying. People die every day. And it's sad. And I have, look, most of my family are all dead and buried. My father, my mother, my aunts, my cousins are dropping off like flies. And I'm in that list. But why make your life a misery trying to stay alive? You cannot die till you're meant to die. Just remember that. Yes, every state, and probably every country, would have a Crimes Act. It's quite big. Why do they move from common law to fictional laws, we call it, or statute law? Well, statute law only applies to persons. So if you consider yourself, or continue using that idiotic word person, statute laws all apply to you. Because if you look up anywhere in those books, it will say, you find a person committing an offence, a person, trespass, all related to persons. Nowhere in the Crimes Act, or any act, will you find the term a man or a woman. In fact, in our constitution here in Australia, the only time a man or a woman is mentioned is in marriage. That's the only time a man and woman is mentioned in marriage. Now, why did they give away common law? Well, common law is quite tedious, a lot of paperwork, a lot of research into prisons were set by common law judges over the years, and you have to have a jury. Now, I remember back in Ireland as a kid, if someone's, you see it in the paper all the time, and someone stole someone's bicycle, something so simple as that, they had a choice of a magistrate, they call them judges over there, because it is a republic, so they are citizens. There are no citizens in Australia, because Australia is not a republic. Well, it is an unlawful republic since 1988, but we still have royal commissions, another story. But the juries have gone. You'll have juries in murder trials and stuff, because really they're pretty hard to hide, but they've done a lot of cases here in the county court. Well, you know, what county is the county court in? I didn't even know we had counties in Australia, but we have a county court. Well, right. But they do have the correct symbols on their courts, not a kangaroo dangling like the magistrate's court. But they're removing and have removed juries as much as possible, and they've done it very successfully and anonymously. We don't have governments. Another word we have to remove as well is governments. We do not have governments anymore. We have corporations, federal and state. In fact, the so-called preferred parties, oh my God. The Labour Party destroyed this country. It started in 1922 in Queensland when the Labour Party, struggling to gain success, removed the upper house so to save money. And let's face it, Queensland people are pretty laid back and great place. They allowed them to do it, so they removed the upper house in Queensland. Then the other crowd, the Liberals, come along and says, we'll fix this when we get elected the next time. That was 1922. They never did, and they never will. So what the Liberals do, they let the Labour Party destroy everything, they'll sit back and watch and reap the benefit. Now, in today's society, in May 2021, the Liberals have become just as corrupt as the Labour Party. They're all becoming communistic, socialist governments in order to get votes. And they will extend, ScoMo will extend this BS until the elections. He thinks by saving the fools who are worried about dying, we're all going to bloody die anyway, so stop worrying about it. You can't die unless you're meant to. Stop worrying about it. And he'll keep this going. And it's got to stop. Okay, let's do a little bit of that now. Now let's look at affidavits. When you put an affidavit in the first place, say your name is John Michael Smith. So most people start off there with I, John Michael Smith, declare, whatever the case may be. Well, that's their system, and I can assure you it will go down the gurgler within seconds, because you are complying with the rules of their statute system, and you now confirming the fact that you are a person. And when you turn up to their vessel in dry dock, which is a ship or court, you're going in there as a guilty. The fact that you ask you guilty or not has no meaning whatsoever unless you have someone to make you an award of state, a solicitor. So therefore you appoint a solicitor, you become a ward of state, so you can't speak for yourself. So he represents you. He acts for you. He doesn't work for you, he acts for you. Now Hollywood is full of actors. Now let's look at just the beginning. I know you're all too lazy to write this down, so I'll just do a few lines for you of an affidavit. Now let's look at this affidavit, and we're going to put it down as John Michael Smith. Smith being the family name. Given names, very important to use given names. John Michael. Now this is just a sample. So you've got a summons to come to court. So we started out like this. The normal affidavits would say, I, John Michael Smith. So you're writing it in the first character, and then you're actually agreeing that you are a person, and you're going to turn up to their business deal that's going to crucify you and cost you money. So you started off with not I, John, but you started off with John Michael. You're given names. Now everything comes with knowledge and facts, principles, the whole thing, right? So let's look at John Michael with the knowledge of fact, principle, and beneficiary. So you're here, you're claiming principle, and you're claiming the beneficiary. Remember, there's only the trustee. There's only one left. So when you go to court, the magistrate's already sitting up there as trustee. They ask you your name. They trick you. The prosecution then was the administrator. He's changed his round, and now you're the trustee, the one that's going to pay the bill. But you're going to place it in their facts, in their paperwork, that you're going there as the principal, which makes them the agent, and you're also the beneficiary for the deceased estate at law, which is Smith. Because if you're a person, you're already dead. And communicating with the dead, if you're a living man or woman, it could be seen on reasonable grounds to be a form of insanity. Judges do it all the time. With the knowledge of claim. Bill Turner is an expert in this. This is where you should go to look this up. I had to learn this. A lot of other people have to learn it. Human beings are lazy. They'd rather just, learn a bit of it. With the knowledge of claim, beneficiary, and principal, except my agents, that's who they are, invitation to the vessel in dry dock, that's the court, it's a ship.
Is a vessel a dry dock? Then you stick in the court dates at the time between business hours, between 10 a.m. and so on. Well, that's just a start. That will do you, right? And anytime you communicate with these criminals, you start off with your given name, with the knowledge of fact. You're the principal and the beneficiary. You don't have to say that if you're not going to court, but the principal, and just go from there. Now go on to Bill Turner's YouTube channel and look it up. Learn it. You have to. I started about 8 years ago. I hadn't got a clue from one end to the other. I didn't even know Australia had a constitution. But, you know, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You've got to put it together.
There's not much point having gloom and doom if you don't know what to do about it. Well, just having a look at the affidavit, that's a start. If you've got to go to court or you've got to communicate with these cabals, the cabal of criminals, that's the people posing as politicians, they're just, they're on the council. What do you call them? What do you call them? What do you call them? Oh, just a minute. There is no such thing as a politician. These are people on the board as corporation members. And then at the top of that board you have the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. And whenever you hear the term officer, like police officer, it relates back to a company. Security officer, all companies. They have sneaked these terms in for years and years. The day of the policeman and policewoman, when they run common law, have well and truly gone. Now the police are, some of them, are sick to death that they've gone through torment with masks and stuff. If they didn't wear them, the public complained. If the bosses complained, which sat in the ivory towers and give the stuff. Sorry guys, I know some of them. But anyway, it's bad. Now you see how to write an affidavit. Just communicate in that fictional system, or system of pretend acts. You've got to fight back that way. But the main avenue back for us is the people taking on all these CEOs of these corporations one at a time. Is common law. Now there's a number of fantastic groups out there fighting for us, for me, for you. Sadly, the living dead don't want to know, so this conversation is in a very narrow gap. The people who are watching this now are already awake. And to get the rest going, well guys, if you've got an idea how to do that, well, you're a better man than Gandhi. Never going to happen to you. We're in trouble because these people just don't want to know. And if you explain to them, they just care. Now what they don't realise, when the Queen was removed, so did simple Feely Simple went with it. Now who cares? As I said, in America you own the land, you own the isle underneath your land, and in Ireland they've had a war and a civil war to get their independence. It became a republic, and they are citizens of the republic just like citizens of Rome. We're not citizens. UK and here, you don't own your property. You had a Feely Simple, which gave you the rights to build on it, sell on it. Of course, we have these clans call themselves local government. We're a joke, 3 referendums and they still think they're a local government when they all failed. These councils reckon they have control over you. Well, only if you let them. So you've got to move away from being a person to a living man or a living woman, and you've got all these groups that are fighting down the same road, in the same direction, need to get together and use common law to fight back, taking these people down one at a time. We already had one successful case here and a few test cases. So let's get together with everybody and no more fighting, because one thing the government slipped up, these corporations do not want you to stand together, because united we stand, divided we fall. Okay. Well, listen, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got a little bit of information today. It's not a lot, it's really hard. I'm here on my own. I don't have a script. If anything that comes from upstairs, I believe if you know your subject, even if you make mistakes, if you have to read from a laptop or something, well, you're wasting your time. It's like politicians, they read from somebody else's notes. They're not real people, they're just pretenders. And there's enough of them in Australia and around the world pretending to be something they're not. Well, that's life, I guess. Anyway, Dr. Barry London will sign off. Keep subscribing, and thanks to the people who put a few dollars into the common law court. Really thank you for that, guys. we need a GoFundMe fund or somebody who's good at raising funds, because we want to put a vehicle on the road that's going to advertise the fact there is a common law court in Australia and in Melbourne start, but one court's not enough. We need 10 in each state. You know, I can't do that on my own. I've got a little bit of help, and Anne, thanks to Anne, she's been in it from the beginning. We had a lot of ups and downs, but we prevailed and we kept going. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.
Hi, let's have a look at this new ID card. That's a photograph, just an old photograph. Just need head and shoulders. The name goes in down the bottom here in the correct manner. Again, over here. And the surname, which is the one they use to control you. It's a person. If you believe you're a person, well, the law applies to you. That's the fictional law that is. And of course the address and this barcode, because all these IDs have an individual barcode, and it's posted out to you by registered post, and that barcode stays with you ever. That comes from Bill Turner's principles, and it really, really works. And on the back of this card, we'll have a look. We stand under common law, and with the claim of the knowledge is with the fact of truth. You see, the truth. You just read through that there yourselves nice and slowly. You'll see the principles of common law are humanity, caution, and prudence. And down the bottom here, if you look, to act with kindness, humanity, take care not to harm others, prudence, use common sense, good judgment, and be mindful of your actions. So it does explain what those meanings up there. And then it says no contract with fictional laws, no contract with corporations or fictional courts. As a living man and woman, I stand under God's law. It's a fact. And all the truth to claim. It's all on there. And that's all you need to produce to say, at now time, I am not a person. I am a living man, or I am a living woman.